What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Trust Your Board podcast. My name's Stephen Wright, joined by Mr. William Monroe. How you doing, man?
Well, man, I really can't get this going. I am doing great, Steve. We got the NFL draft coming up. I've got 2 days, 2 days off here coming up for the rest of the week. So my brain is like between working, trying to get 5 days worth of work done in 3 days, and then vacation. So it's somewhere in the middle there. I can squeeze a little bit of football in here for us. And the NFL draft is just about a week away now while we're recording.
Yeah, it's closing in quickly. And as a 49ers fan, I can't wait for it to get here because I am tired of hearing the back and forth. This quarterback, that quarterback is. I'm over it.
You just want to be able to go buy your Mac Jones jersey.
Yeah, sure. Like anyway, I'd almost rather not have the pick at this point. I'm just so sick of it. Just give me Jimmy G and just move along.
No, I hear that.
But yeah, we'll have our answer soon enough.
And we will. Listening to this, it'll be under a week for us, just over a week here.
Yeah, not going to be long at all. And then you're stuck in the draft and you're waiting, 10 minutes, 15 minutes between each pick?
Yeah, I mean, it starts at 7. It probably won't be over till, 11 for the first round. So you're looking at 32 picks in 4 hours. Yeah,
all that anticipation, and then you just got to sit and wait and wait and wait. And,
it might be longer than that. I think the last one is usually like midnight because it's a solid, at least 10 minutes per pick. Plus the trade is another 10 minutes.
Yep. Yeah, it gets kind of annoying.
Can be pretty brutal.
Yeah, but what can you do?
No, not much you can do.
Yeah, as we mentioned on the last episode, today we're going to be going over our draft predictions. We did that last year. We did it this year. It's kind of, the beginning of like season 3 of the Trust Your Board podcast. Huh?
Truly is. We'll maybe call it season 3, episode 1, something like that.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is, right?
And of course,
I don't think this
mock draft
2 fun mocks don't really matter.
Yeah. A mock draft podcast should start with a non-mock draft episode, right? It only seems fitting.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh boy, but so we're gonna go through some quarterbacks, some running backs, a bunch of wide receivers, a few tight ends, and just get a prediction on what team and round we think they're gonna go in. I think last year, we tallied it up, and whoever had the most officially got to decide who we were drafting with our 103 last year.
Yeah, was that last year or 2 years ago? Because
last year, because we didn't do this last.
We had the 102 and the 103, right?
Yeah, so that was the big thing. Is we had the 103 at the time. I had won this little competition, but then we got to the draft. We had bought the 102 and the 103, and I think we were pretty well aligned on everything. So it was
a little easier that way.
Yeah, and now we just traded for the 101. Lucky us, and I think we're pretty aligned there. So I don't know. Yeah, and the 108. So maybe the winner of this picks the 108. I don't know. We're pretty aligned on a lot of things. So I'm not sure.
I know we'll probably go through it here, but I think there's like a top 8. Now that's going to include a quarterback and a tight end, and a lot of people don't love that for rookie mock drafts. But I think there's a pretty solid 8 and maybe a few receivers that you could argue in there. So I think we're in pretty good shape with the 8th pick there. But yeah, we could say final say, right? 50 and 50% plus 1 vote type of thing.
Yep. Yeah, that's fair. We could do that.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff.
So are you ready to jump right in?
Yeah. I actually pulled up here on the Fantasy Pros website a NFL consensus mock draft. I was looking around to get just, if you look at their website, they usually have the most consensus rankings where they're just pulling in a lot of the industry experts' rankings together to get you a consensus. So this is going to, goes through at least the first 2 rounds. So it should be most of our players here. I'm going to get an idea of, what the industry thinks. So I'll kind of try to pull up each player and, after we kind of say what we think, just to get an idea of what the industry thinks here. And we'll see who gets the most right here. I don't know the exact numbers last year, but I'd imagine it's something similar to a baseball average here that you can hope for, right? If you're hitting 35% of your picks here, I think that's probably pretty respectable. We're not looking at NFL completion percentage.
Yeah, I think we were awarded 1 point for the correct team and 1 point for the round. I think I think the final score is me with 19 and you with 15 or 16.
Which is like absurd because we probably did at least, 30, 40 players. So it's 2 points per player.
Yeah, we did really good in the beginning, and then we got slaughtered once you get into the third,
second and third round. Yeah, it's like day 2 and then early day 3 is just brutal.
Yeah, and fantasy experts always kind of experts, as if we're experts. But anyone in the fantasy industry tends to overvalue those positions. And like, oh yeah, of course you're going to draft this running back in the second round. Where meanwhile, the NFL is like, no, this dude's like a 4th rounder. I don't know what you're talking about. So and then you just got to have fun with it.
Third round is going to be all wide receivers in most of our mocks in there. But we'll see. It's wishful thinking because you want these guys to be relevant, and anybody outside of the first 3 rounds, you're really losing a lot when it comes to draft capital. If you can get the guys you like drafted in the first 3 rounds, there's a good chance they're going to get on the field and have a longer leeway. But I think it was like 2 years ago, Keem Butler went in the 4th round, and he was going into it, a lot of people's top 5, probably top 10 receiver. Most people were thinking he's going to go in the 2nd or 3rd round, and he ends up going in the 4th, and obviously hasn't done much since. But with that draft capital, they didn't feel the need to be tethered to him for as long. So draft capital is important. Focus on those guys that go in those top 3 rounds. Latter rounds, you're maybe going to get a couple of running backs in the 4th round, but latter rounds, it's going to be a crapshoot for sure.
Yeah, well said. Let's go ahead and jump in. Before we do, of course, go ahead and give us a follow on Twitter at TrustYourBoard. You can also subscribe on YouTube if you want to watch all our picks. We just got the screen up of all our predictions here for this one, but usually we have the mock drafts going. Well, I think we can really skip over the first one. We both got Trevor Lawrence going in the first round, the 101 to the Jaguars. I believe every expert known to man has the same. I don't think we really need to talk about that at all.
Yeah, these first 2 picks, and first one for sure. Second one I think is very likely. Should be starting out 4-0 here when it comes to points.
Yeah, for sure. So the second one being Zach Wilson to the Jets. That was my prediction. I'm still not entirely on board with it. Like, obviously that's where I'm going to put my bet, and that's where I did, but I'm more on the sides that they could go Fields than a lot of other people, and not that that's an overwhelming majority, but it's just a nagging thought.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, and that was easy, industry for the consensus. They have 16 different mock drafts compiled here, and 100% of them have Trevor Lawrence 1 to Jacksonville, Zach Wilson 2 to New York.
Yeah, so the third one is where it gets interesting. So we got Justin Fields up here. I have the 49ers sticking with the pick and drafting Fields. You have him going to the Broncos. I guess, you have 49ers drafting Mac Jones. So, you got the Broncos, I guess, trading up.
Either trade up or, I think he's a stud. I think he's the second best. You could argue Zach Wilson, but I like him the second best in the draft here. But it just seems like a lot of people are just souring on him. And it seems like there's, a narrative that he's not, a worker, right? We've seen the talent on the field. We know he can do it at the high level. There's a narrative that he's one of those last to show up, first to leave type of guys. I, seen him enough as a Penn State fan watching him play. Penn State recruited him. He ended up going to Georgia, transfers to Ohio State. So saw him playing enough. And, I didn't see it, that on the field. You probably don't get that, especially in college. It's hard to really tell. But I think there's definitely a chance that he drops, right? I think we think Trevor and Wilson go, and then it's the Niners pick at number 3 is really where it hinges. If they do go Lance or Mac Jones, I think that opens up the floodgates for the Niners or for the Falcons to possibly trade down. So that could be, the Broncos trading up, could be a slew of teams trading up, but someone else maybe trades up and they want to get Lance, right? Because let's say where I'm my prediction, Mac Jones goes to the Niners and someone else trades up for Lance. I think there's a good chance the Broncos could sit pat and grab the 5th quarterback. And if that ends up being anyone other than Mac Jones, I think they'd be thrilled, maybe even move up. So I think Broncos either move up just a little bit or stand pat and get whichever quarterback falls to them, which I don't know that it's right, but I think it's Fields.
Yeah, that's fair. The next one, Trey Lance. This is where, and I guess I should explain, I rolled the dice on a lot of picks here. And I was telling you last night that I didn't really like what I did, and I was going to undo some of it and make it more reasonable. And then literally about an hour ago, I decided, no, I'm just going to put it all back and I will stick to my stupid guns. This is one of those. So we got Trey Lance. You have him going to the Patriots in the first round. I have him going to Washington in the first round. So you want to talk about your Patriots play a little bit there? Is that a trade up? Is he falling down? What's happening there?
Yeah, I think that's a trade up. I think what I have actually going on here, my premise with all the quarterbacks was the Falcons get a ton of offers, but they end up standing pat, and I think I have them taking Pitts. No, I think that they have them taking either wide receiver or, either when they trade down, I think they're going to stand pat, and that's what's going to push down some quarterbacks. I've got, preview Mac Jones going to 3 to the Niners. So I think Patriots move up maybe in that Carolina pick, right? And they grab either Lance or Fields. I have them taking Lance and Fields going to the Broncos. But I've heard a lot more clamor recently that, Washington, whether they should or will, move up, because as a NFC East fan, as an Eagles fan, I think everyone in the NFC East outside of the Washington fan base was really hoping that they won the division this year, because they definitely have the most complete team outside of quarterback. So if they were in the top 10, it'd be much easier for them to go up and get one of these guys. Being, I think, the 20th pick, 18th pick, somewhere in there, they're 19. It's going to be hard for them to get a quarterback unless they move up. But if they want to win, with a relatively cheap, defense, they don't have to pay their top pick from last year, Chase, a ton. So I think this is the time to move up. If I'm Washington, especially if someone slips to 5 or 10, you gotta, make a big time offer and go get you that quarterback to maximize this window.
And that was really my thought process. I was sitting there thinking, like, hey, they need a quarterback. They can afford to trade up because they got a good defense already. They got a rookie, or not a rookie, but a rookie contract wide receiver and a running back. Like, they're sitting in a pretty good spot, all things considered. So they can pay up to move up. And then I thought, hey, Trey Lance, he's a good passer. He's a good rusher. That is someone that Rivera has worked with in the past. Cam Newton, good rusher. And it's someone that a lot of people think might need some time to kind of adjust to the NFL. And you got Fitzpatrick there, and that's what Fitzpatrick does best anymore. Yes. So, you could give him some time. So that was the thought. I was going to remove it because Washington didn't go to his second pro day, which kind of worried me a little bit. And then the whole idea of trading up, and, it kind of worried me, but that's ended up, I was just like, screw it. Just because they didn't go to a pro day doesn't mean you like them. They might have just saw everything they needed to see in the first one. So I stuck it in there, and I will stand by it. It's going to be interesting to see if that happens or not. Patriots, you picked the Patriots there. That would also be a really interesting move, and probably a smart one on their part.
Yeah.
But I got Jimmy G more so in the Patriots, on their Patriots mind. So that's why I didn't go that route.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, and this is why it's so difficult, because there's a lot of teams that have the opportunity to trade up, and a lot of teams that are thinking about moving down. So it should be interesting come draft day. It should be one of the more exciting when it comes to trades, hopefully.
It is. Not sure how much we need to talk about the next one. Mac Jones, you have him go to the 49ers. Obviously, a ton of rumors there in the first round. I have him in the first round going to the Bears. Anything you want to really talk about on your prediction there?
No, I think it's just a lot of what I've been hearing is Mac Jones to the Niners, and maybe it's more wishful thinking, because as an Eagles fan at 12, if Mac Jones can definitely go in the top, anywhere in the top 12 really, but earlier, it's going to push more talent down, especially if 5 quarterbacks can get drafted ahead of the Eagles pick at 12. Gives me a shot. I mean, as an Eagles fan, I'm really hoping for either Chase, Waddle, Smith, or the corner, Patrick Surtain. So I think that's, my ideal fit. So I think there's a good chance one of them are still there, if 5 quarterbacks go ahead of them and tackle, possibly another defensive player, maybe a defensive lineman gets overdrafted. So maybe wishful thinking, but also kind of just playing off of a lot of what I've seen and heard, that seems like Kyle Shanahan really likes Mac Jones.
Yeah, and I got him going to the Bears, and it's more of like part of it was me not wanting to leave this draft without the Bears getting someone somewhat
Yeah.
high profile. Um, and it's also be a two-part step in like a stupid idea I have going for the Bears. But I have them trading up. I think they're in the 20 spot right now, 19, 20, something like that. And I have them trading up somewhere up there to get Mac Jones. And yeah, I mean, a lot of it just comes out of Dalton. I can't see them leaving without a quarterback. With that said, the next and the last quarterback that we have is Kyle Trask. You have the Bears grabbing him in the third. I have the Patriots grabbing him in the third. So you kind of take care of the Bears issue there. I look at that and say it's probably not high profile enough. Like, I don't know. He's kind of like a game manager, and that could be perfectly fine with Chicago with, you know, the defense and stuff. That could be fine. It just, I don't know. I was thinking more high profile, but I'm thinking you're thinking along the same lines of that they need to walk out of here with a quarterback.
Yeah, it's more, probably what you're thinking with New England. They can run with Dalton this year. And then, if you maybe see what you have in Trask, fine, but you didn't invest a ton with a third's still pretty valuable. But if you're investing a top 2 pick, top 2-round pick, you got to make sure it's an elite level guy. And I just don't see one falling to them. And, in my mind, they don't move up in my mock here. So I would imagine they want to come away with something just to be able to say they got a quarterback. But I don't think this is the one that their fan base envisions being the guy.
Yeah, and you pretty much hit the nail on the head. I went the Patriots. Again, as I said earlier, I think they make a play for Jimmy G. But I do think they go ahead and they draft a quarterback as well.
Mm-hmm.
And, like you said, a third round is a solid capital, but it's not, you have to start kind of capital. And I see him kind of hedging, Jimmy G, some question marks around him. Obviously, plenty of them. So, my thought process is you get him and then you kind of hedge of like, well, if he isn't as good as we thought, then you have, a rookie that, maybe you could take a look at. Because, I mean, Cam's obviously getting older, and I don't even remember who was the other guy. Stidham, he's obviously not going to be anything. So adding someone else in a third round is fair capital. And I think it's someone that can work with Belichick as a game manager. You rely on a good defense, you get a good running game going, yada, yada, yada. Kind of like the early years with Brady.
Yeah.
I threw him over there with the Patriots.
All right. Well, that about quarterbacks. I'm sure there'll be a few other guys going. But I feel like outside of those top 5, that's really the only ones that matter. Trask, I think, is probably the next one. But he, or I'm sure one of these other quarterbacks that are going to be drafted in the, 2 through 5 range, will be either backup or maybe one of them breaks out. But I think it's really those top 5 that we talked about that are really going to be relevant here for your dynasty drafts.
For sure. You could take any of the other quarterbacks and, replace them with Trask, and they can go to the Bears, they can go to the Patriots. We just added an extra quarterback in there, a non-high profile quarterback in there just to take a shot on somebody. But yeah, it's pretty rotational. You can rotate that name out with anybody. Yeah. But, we got running backs next. Our first one here, Will, is ETN. You got him going to the Dolphins in the second. I have him going to the Bucks, the back of the first. A lot of people have the Dolphins grabbing a running back. I'm assuming you're thinking they would need an upgrade, and he's obviously a great guy to grab, right?
Yeah, I mean, ETN, I see him as the second best rusher in the draft here. I think he's a dynamic player. I just don't see. I get, Bucks need players, at the running back position, but they have a bunch. Maybe they need youth. Maybe they don't believe in Vaughn. I just don't see the Bucks taking him there. I think he falls into the second round, and someone in that top 10 of the second round scoop him up there, and that's where I have the Dolphins getting him. I think they're definitely going to go running back. Could see them taking Najee, but I don't believe they do. I think they go with another just kind of either defensive player, or if they get a skill player in the top 5 with their 20, late teens 20 pick, I think they're going to go with just another impact player, knowing that they can get a running back a little bit later.
Yeah, that's fair. I have the Bucks in more of like a Kansas City mold last year, where they didn't have to get a running back, but they weren't exactly happy with what they had, and
Yeah.
they did in CEH. And I can see that here. Like Rojo's fine. Fournette was really good in the playoffs, but I mean, most of the season he was fine. Vaughn clearly not super happy with. You bring in Geo, so I think this gives you that all-purpose kind of. I think he's been compared to Kamara a few times, kind of back. Like a David Johnson can run, can catch, can kind of do it all. That Bruce Arians likes. So took a shot there. Definitely more of a gamble. Maybe letting the Chiefs and what they did last year seep into my head a little bit too much, but took that shot. And the next one, I don't think we need to talk about too much. We're both aligned. I think a lot of people are. We have Najee going to the Steelers in the first round. Anything you want to mention there?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the ideal fit for Najee and anyone like us that has the 101. Dolphins, I think, would be great too. I mean, I really hope that he goes to one of those. So if he can fall to Pittsburgh, great. The Dolphins can scoop him up. I'm cool with that too. Any other situation, there's probably a few other good ones there. I just don't see any ones that are just as perfect of a fit as those two. So Pittsburgh just I feel like it makes too much sense.
Yep, agreed. Next one, Javonte Williams. I find yours really interesting. You have the Jaguars taking him in the second round. I have the Jets taking him in the second round. I mean, my play's pretty easy. The Jets need a running back pretty bad. They're going to try to surround Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, whoever with weapons, and they're going to need a running back to do that.
Yeah.
Pretty simple narrative. Jaguars, you have them going with a pretty high-profile running back despite having James Robinson.
Yeah, I mean, I think they like what they have in Robinson. They brought in, I think, Carlos Hyde and Malcolm Brown. So two guys that, are depth and veterans, but nothing that you're really going to build around. So I think, getting another, prominent running back like Javonte Williams can really make for a nice 1-2 punch with James Robinson. And I believe they have 2 second-round picks. So I have this as like their latter second-round pick. And then them taking someone else a little bit later with their earlier second-round pick. But yeah, I just think it makes sense. And I think that he's just a very, I think it's these three are kind of the top tier running backs when it comes to the draft here. These three we mentioned. And, just a position that while you have a good young player, you saw a lot from him. You saw he could do it in the league. But, I don't think that it's definitely someone you're going to shy away from the position when you're trying to put weapons around a rookie quarterback, just like the Jets are. So I think we both were drafted a nice young running back to grow with our young quarterback. So we'll see. I think that was just more of like a value pick for the for the Jaguars.
Yeah, no, next one we got Michael Carter. This is where you have the Jets stepping in the third. I have the Patriots grabbing him in the fourth. I'm assuming your Jets pick is pretty much all I said. You just have a different running back going.
Yeah, it's more of a passing down guy because I think they went and got Tevin Coleman and somebody else maybe. And then Michael Carter, is kind of like, from what I've seen, Williams and Carter were kind of like a thunder lightning type thing. Carter's more of the passing down guy. Williams is more your first and second. I think he can do it all, but Carter seems like more the mold of a James White. So it makes sense that the Patriots would like to scoop him up there in the fourth. But I think the Jets in the third round want to get a young running back for their rookie quarterback, and a nice passing down running back it's great. You see your quarterbacks typically want to throw it to the running back early, especially earlier in their career.
Yep, and you pretty much hit the nail on the head with my Patriots thought is that I'd imagine James White's probably short for his tenure in the Patriots, so he'll probably be moving on. Michael Carter would be a good replacement, like you said, good pass catcher. Decent running back as well if you can get him on the outside. Not so much between the tackles kind of guy, but on the outside he's pretty good. And I think a key thing that Belichick's really going to like is the man doesn't fumble. I forget. Yeah, it's been a while since I see the stat, but I think it's the past 2 years he hasn't fumbled. Something to that degree. Pretty insane. But I'd imagine Bill is going to be loving that.
Yes, I think he'll be very happy.
Indeed. Our next one, I'm really surprised because you get further down the list and you tend not to match up as much, but we both got Kenneth Gainwell going to the Falcons. You have him in the fourth. I have him in the third. It's a little bit different there, but both picking the Falcons. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah. I think the Falcons definitely are going to take a running back here. If they don't go get you all the Mike Davis shares you can for this year in Dynasty, redraft too, right? I think Mike Davis will feast if they don't take a rookie. And I think he still is valuable if they take a rookie, but I'm pretty confident they're going to take one somewhere between, 3 and 4. Maybe they jump at 1 and, earlier at 1 and 2, but if they end up trading down from 4, maybe they pick up a lot more draft picks and it allows them to take one a little earlier. But right here, I've got them taking him in the 4th. But yeah, I think Falcons are a good fit for him there.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, you could you mentioned Thunder and Lightning earlier. You could kind of do the same thing because Gainwell's another guy that he can't really run inside. So you can use him as your outside guy and Mike Davis as your inside guy. You can establish that, but one way or another, I see the Falcons got to take somebody.
Yeah.
If they only listened to me last year and drafted, I think, Dobbins and had him wait a year behind Gurley, they would have all these problems solved, but they didn't. And here we are.
Yes.
So both having them take Gainwell there. Trey Sermon is next on the docket. We both have him going in the 4th. You got him going to my 49ers. I have him going to the Jaguars. You think the 49ers are a pass catcher there?
Yeah, I mean, I guess a runner. I mean, he obviously can catch passes as well, but I just think they want to keep their strength strong, right? He's a fairly big guy for running back, 6 foot, 215. And he's played a lot. Oklahoma, Ohio State, so he's played in big situations. I just think the Niners, they lose McKinnon, still a free agent, I believe. It's really just Mostert and Wilson they have left, so neither guy are, particularly young, both mid-20s. I think it just makes sense to grab yourself a young running back. Hasty showed out okay, but I don't think it was perfect. Seems to be more of an early down runner, so it could be a guy that you can train behind a Mostert and fill in when needed.
Yeah, and I mean, kind of the same deal with the Jaguars. Like, they need somebody else. You got James Robinson, like you mentioned, they got Hyde and Malcolm Brown, but there's a lot left to be desired with those two. So to add a young player is nice. I can see them going in a later round. Like I got him going in the 4th. Like you said, he's kind of all purpose. He's got a really good build. And that's going to translate well. He could catch the ball, which I think is nice. I can see him being a nice third round or a third down kind of guy that steals some carries away from James Robinson. That's really why I put him there. Obviously, we're both aligned on the 4th, so we got our timing about pretty good there. Jamar Jefferson, you have the Saints grabbing him in the 4th. I have him going quite a bit later to the Broncos in the 6th. I was thinking about the Saints. Latavius Murray's still under contract there, right?
I believe so.
I believe so as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to be pretty close to the end. And obviously, you got Kamara on his second contract now, so you just want to make sure you can go out and get a young running back to get behind them there. And I think that, he seems to be a pretty good fit. He's a change of pace guy, so you probably learn a thing or two from Kamara because Kamara can kind of do it all. And, yeah, I think he can fit in most offensive schemes. But I just think, good running back there. Later in the draft here, I feel like it's tough to kind of pair teams up with the players with the exact teams that they'd be. So I'm just kind of taking shots on some of these guys. I haven't watched a ton of, game film or on a few of these later guys just yet. So, yeah, I think he's just, from what I've read, he's going to be just a solid running back. And, 4th round, I think that's really where you're seeing, kind of the tail end of your running backs that are really going to have an impact here.
Yeah, I see him as a sick depth play for the Broncos. Kind of a late shot. The 6 might be too late. I think sometimes when I did some of these round adjustments, I kind of did what we were talking about earlier, where I don't remember if it was him specifically, but I'd have him like in the 4th. I was like, You know what? It's probably the fantasy in me talking, and I brought him back down.
Yeah.
So I don't remember if that was his situation or not, but I just look at the Broncos and they're one of the teams that I think need to leave with a running back. You got Melvin Gordon, pretty solid, getting a little bit older. And then they grab Mike Boone, which is fine, but I think you would like to have somebody else added there. And it's a pretty decent fit, I think. So like you said, it's kind of hard to predict. You see a need on a team and you take a shot, right?
Yeah. That's really what it is going through the draft.
Yeah. The next one I actually do have a little bit of reasoning behind to some degree. We got Chuba here next. You got him going to the Texans at 5. I got the 49ers at 4. Or really the same thought process that you had. The 49ers should probably come away with a running back. And given that Kyle Shanahan can kind of create a running back, a productive running back out of just about anybody, I think he's a pretty good like upside shot. Like,
Yeah.
of course, if he had just, if we were talking about the draft last year and he was coming out, he'd be one of the top guys, right?
Yeah,
and that's the worry with a lot of your rookies is sometimes they just disappear the next year. Bryce Love, it just got, he hasn't been picked up yet. And he's definitely one that stayed in school just a year too long. So he falls in that category. And I think if somebody can kind of recapture that magic and show the greatness again, it'd be the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan because they can do it with anybody. So I see it as kind of an upside shot for them. Will it happen? Maybe. He'd probably just end up in a committee, but the 49ers wouldn't be a bad fit there. You have the Texans grabbing their like 6th running back on the roster, 7th running back. I've lost track of everyone they've added.
All of the ones they have are 30 plus, I feel like, though. I don't think Duke's
sure seems
anymore.
that way.
I think Duke's a free agent still, but yeah, you got David Johnson, you got, I guess, Philip Lindsay's fairly young. But
Lindsay's young.
So I think they want to get a young guy. And I think, they could use help everywhere, but a good young running back is always valuable. And I think he will get discounted because of his, lack of production this year. I think he had like a ridiculous low amount of catches that just doesn't make sense for a guy that can catch the ball and was ultra productive, the first few years up until last year. So yeah, I think he's a really good running back. Thinks he waited one year too many to come out and probably going to hurt him from a draft and financial standpoint, at least to start his NFL career. But hopefully he can get back on track and perform enough to get himself a good second contract.
Yep, that's fair. And then the last guy we're going to talk about, I don't know about you, but I don't have a ton of reasoning, but Jared Patterson, you have him going to the Bills in the 5th. I got him going to the Chiefs in the 6th. I see the need for the Chiefs just to grab a later running back to add some depth there. And I think he's a good kind of heart and soul kind of guy that Andy Reid would appreciate. And that's really the only reasoning I had behind that one. You got anything for the Bills?
No, at this point it got tough because I feel like most of the teams I wanted to get a running back to had already gotten them. So I think this was just a value pick for the Bills. They got 2 young running backs. So I'm not super confident there. Maybe I'm just hoping more for the round to work out. But yeah, I you don't know a ton about him. From all accounts, it's kind of the end of the usable backs that I've seen, out of this draft class. So I think he, that's a shot, but just we'll see if he, where he ends up going.
Yeah, that's fair. So that's going to wrap up the running backs. We'll move over to the wide receivers here. We'll start with Jalen Waddle, the Lions. You have him going to in the first round. I have him going to the Bears. I've seen a lot of people having him to the Lions there, so you are not alone in that thought process.
Yeah, I'm thinking, there's going to be 3 wide receivers taken here. And as much as I'd love to get one of those 3 at the 12th pick, I don't believe any of them go, the top 3 guys, to the Eagles. And I have Waddle going second out of the 3 to the Lions. I think the Lions could really use some pass catchers. Obviously, you still have your boy Quintez Cephas, and they signed 2 wide receivers, I believe.
Tyrell and Perryman, yeah.
So, nothing to truly build around. So I think Waddle makes sense. He's super explosive. Like, Waddle has probably got maybe the most upside of everyone here. The real downside to him is he's got a little injury risk and maybe some concentration on a few short passes, but I think his ceiling's to the roof. He's kind of like Ruggs, where he's a speed guy, he's deep threat, but he's got like much better route running, excellent vision.
Probably more like Tyreek, right?
Yeah, exactly. But he's that's probably your closest, guy coming out to Tyreek. I don't know that anyone's going to hit that for a while, but yeah, I mean, he's going to be that guy that NFL teams fall in love with just because of the speed and just the game-breaking ability. So I think he's going to go early. I think Chase kind of has that just prototypical mold that he's going to be the first guy taken, but I think Waddle goes ahead. I mean, I'm hoping Waddle or Smith fall to the Eagles, but in my mock here, I don't have them getting that far down. I have all 3 going in the top 11 picks.
Yeah, that's fair. I have them going to the Bears. This is part 2 of my stupid Bears stuff. So I have the Bears trading up to get Mac Jones, and then I have them trading back into the first round to grab Waddle. Kind of like what I was saying with Washington with Trey Lance. The Bears have all the pieces. You know, they got the defense. They got a good enough running back. They got a wide receiver. Mooney's not bad as a second one, but they got Allen Robinson. They need a quarterback and ideally another wide receiver. So I think Waddle would counter Allen Robinson pretty well. And you're also preparing for the future a little bit where, you know, how much longer, you know, you're franchising Allen right now, or Robinson, but, you know, how much longer is he going to be around? So
yeah,
if he does stick around, then you get 2 awesome players. If he doesn't, then you move Waddle up to ideally your number 1 role, and you go out and find yourself a 2. But big gamble on my part there, for sure. But I think the logic's there. The next one, Will, I don't think we have to talk too much about. We're aligned, and I think a lot of the experts are as well. We got Chase, both going to the Dolphins in round 1.
Yeah, I think he's the top guy on my board here. Like I said, I like both of the Bama receivers and a couple other guys to talk about, but Chase was a monster 2 years ago, opted out this year, and I think that's kind of, you know, discounted him to a lot of people just because he's not the guy you've seen recently. But yeah, I think it's, you know, pretty easy. Chase the Dolphins makes sense. Maybe he goes 1 pick earlier since he's feeling frisky, but I think they got to go tackle. So Dolphins just sit back and get an excellent wide receiver.
Yeah, that was my issue with the Bengals too. I know Burrow's been asking for Chase, but I look at the team like you have needs everywhere else. Like you just why with T. Higgins and Boyd, you're fine. But
it seems like such a safe pick too. Like he's got it all. And there's really no knocks on him overall. I mean, he's physical, can get up with the contested catch. You know, he's explosive. I just think he's, you know, as close as a sure thing as you can get there with a hefty amount of upside.
Yep, indeed. Another great one, Devonte Smith. You have the Giants grabbing him in the first. I have the Lions grabbing him in the first. My thought process, more like yours with Waddle. You know, the Lions are going to need to rebuild that wide receiver core, and you know he is a very complete wide receiver. He can really do it all. You know, is evident by the Heisman. I think he's the first Heisman wide receiver in 20 years or something like that.
Yeah.
So very good. I could see the Lions taking a shot on him to help rebuild that wide receiver core. You have the Giants adding him. I don't think I have the Giants taking any wide receivers. I don't. So I find that pretty interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I've read a lot that they are looking for a receiver, and you'll notice this mock draft as an Eagles fan is just kind of like me just mapping out like the worst nightmare possible. So one of that pieces is the Giants scooping Devonte Smith 1 pick before the Eagles at 11. He's just, you know, another guy that I think is almost can't miss. Like he's such a high floor. The only knock on him is the size. He's smaller, but he is like one of the most polished route runners in the draft. He's so smooth out of his breaks. For his size, he like looks for contact, but it's almost like a safe contact, right? He's not reckless about it. He just seems like such a smart player. And while they, you know, went out and got Galladay, I feel like I'm not thrilled about anybody else. And that's why they went out and spent big money on Galladay, right? So you want to put the best receiving core around Daniel Jones if you're going to make him work. And I think that's the move there. You take Devonte Smith. You know, if Slayton keeps working, awesome. You got a lot of depth there. Sterling Shepard's a solid slot guy, so keep him in the slot at 3, you know, your wide receiver 3, and you have an excellent wide receiver core there now.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm really curious to see how the next one plays out. We got Bateman. You have him go to the Ravens in the first. I have him go to the Patriots in the first. I think both make a lot of sense. What was your thought process behind the Ravens?
Yeah, I just think it stinks. The Ravens need a wide receiver, and we've said that for a few years now. And it just seems like such a horrible place for a receiver to go fantasy-wise. Team-wise, you know, you're going to win. They're a good team. But just Lamar is good for running backs and himself. Just not great for wide receivers consistently throughout the year fantasy-wise. So I just think they're going to go with one, and I can see it being the first round. And I think those top 3 guys are locks to go in the top 12. Like, I cannot see any of them getting past the Eagles. So I don't think any of them fall. And I think it's just a lock that the Ravens are going to take one there. And Bateman is the top guy on the board for me. I didn't have anybody else going receiver with the depth that's there, and it stinks for Bateman in my mock scenario.
Yeah, that's fair. I got him go to the Patriots. He just seems like a Patriot kind of guy. Like, he's not the most flashy in the world, but like, he is probably the most well-polished guy in the draft. He can really kind of do it all, and we know Bill likes those kind of people, so he just seems like a really good fit. Like I said, Patriots might need to trade up to pull it off. But I think he fits, and it's definitely a need on their end. Patriots, one of two teams I have drafting 2 running backs here, or wide receivers. Man, why do I keep doing that? But I got them to the Patriots. With that in mind, we got about 15 minutes left, so we need to fly through some of these running backs here.
We'll go through a couple guys I'll point out, but we can run through some of these quick.
Yeah, so Terrence Marshall, you got him going to the Eagles. I have him going to the Chiefs. Now, under round, you wrote 1/2. I have him just going in the first to the Chiefs. What's up with the 1/2?
So the Eagles have the 37th pick. I think they could get him there, but I could see them trading into the back of the second or back of the first. I've seen a mock scenario where they and Buffalo just match up perfectly, where Buffalo could use another veteran player. So the Eagles use their Zach Ertz still available and basically just trade 37 and Ertz for 30. So you move up back in the first round, you lock in the guy that you want a receiver. The Bills, don't really need anything specific there, and they get a veteran pass catcher just to drop down 7 spots.
Yeah, that's fair. That makes sense.
I think he fits either way, whether it's a trade up or 37.
Yeah, that's fair. That makes sense. I'm good with that. Chiefs, he's just kind of a counter. You got your speed guys in Tyreek, and you got your speed guy in Hardman. They need to add somebody else because Hardman's not panning out, and I think a big tall guy like Marshall here would fit them well to play off of the 2 speedsters. So that was my reasoning there. Kadarius Toney, you got the Patriots grabbing a wide receiver there. You agreed to me. They need one. In the second, I have him going to the Titans second. Or is your reasoning pretty much just the same as mine with Bateman? Or
yeah, they need to get a guy. I think he's a little more explosive, a little more of a speed guy, and I feel like they could use that. I mean, I guess Aguilar could fit that mold, but they need to get someone, so I think they take him there in the second.
Yeah, that makes sense. Titans they have a gap. Corey Davis left. They need to add another wide receiver. So very much thought process there. Pretty easy. Rondale Moore, you have the Packers grabbing him in the first. I have the Packers getting him in the second. So we're aligned on the team there. Pretty interesting. But I mean, I don't know about you, Will, but there's not a lot to say. They need a wide receiver just like last year. And I don't see them making that mistake again. Yeah,
and I just think he's a perfect fit. He's a super explosive, strong, he's undersized. That's the only knock on him, but he's super fast. He's, I think he's a good number 2. So if he can play next to Adams for a while, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, agreed. He's got some injury concerns, right? He's been hurt quite a bit.
He had a really good freshman year, but he's been in and out of games, and that's like the biggest knock on him is injury and size.
Yeah, that's fair. De'Ami Brown, another one we're aligned on, which is nuts.
Yeah.
We both have him go to the Bengals. You have him at 2. I have him at 3. I know my thought process here, Will, is he's a bit of a burner. He's kind of like a home run hitter kind of guy, and that's what the Bengals drafted Ross to be, and he's not there anymore. So it feels like that fills a need. Was that your thought process as well?
Same thing. It just makes sense. Now, I'm not a huge fan of him, especially for fantasy. He's the guy I'm steering clear of. He's just a super explosive dude. Speed, but size. He feels like I've read that he's like a slow starter out of his breaks, that's the catch, reception. So I'm out on him from fantasy, but I think the speed's going to just push him up in the draft.
That makes sense. Next one, we got a little bit of a round difference here. St. Brown, you got the Bears drafting him in the second. I have the Patriots grabbing their second wide receiver in the fourth there. But I'm assuming your Bears line is a more reasonable take on my Bears line, and that they just need one, right?
Yeah, they're going to take a guy, and I think he's a very solid wide receiver. He's someone that's just kind of good across the board, good route runner. He can catch the ball. He's just solid. I think he's got a high floor. I think he's going to be a wide receiver 3 for fantasy, somewhere in that poor man's Robert Woods mold. I just think he's solid. This is also, you'll notice most of the picks here, it's just wide receivers. Like I discounted running backs a lot, and bumped up wide receivers draft position. So we've got a lot of receivers going in the first 4 rounds here.
Yeah, and that makes sense. That's the way the NFL's been trending for a little while. So hard to argue with that. It's just another play for me as the Patriots needing to rebuild that wide receiver core, and it's just not working out. So I have them grabbing another young one. Just like the next team that I'll be talking about for the next 2 picks here. We have Elijah Moore. You have the Falcons grabbing him in the 3rd. I have the Eagles grabbing him in the 4th. Is this, Will, a play on Julio getting older, just needing a solid wide receiver 3? What's the thought process?
Yeah, and so that's it. Get another wide receiver, and Gage is good, but we traded him away because we don't anticipate him being there for super long or having a ton of value overall. This is a guy that I think I'm even too low on from what I'm reading. It sounds like Elijah Moore, someone the NFL really likes, and I think he's going to go higher. He's a speed guy, but he is a great route runner. He catches the ball. He's got great vision, agility. Like, size is his big knock. He's 5'9". He's small, and he's not super physical, but he is so quick that he's like someone that you'll tackle if you can get a hold of him. But like Tyreek, when you see him just juking people, he's just so hard to get your hands on that I don't even know. Like, I would just be thrilled if the Eagles got him in the 4th round. I don't know if he makes it into the 3rd. I could see this being one of those receivers taken a little earlier. So I'm even a little lower on this guy than I am. But like, at this point, I was just putting together like my wide receivers, and I have him as my 5th receiver in Dynasty right now.
Yeah, I'm looking at my 4th round, and I'm kind of worried about that. I don't want to bump him up to the 2nd, but I think a 3rd is more fair. Maybe I'm just going to do it.
I think I'm going to bump him up to the 2nd, and I don't mind keeping him with the Falcons, but yeah, I think he's a guy that I think is going to go earlier.
Yeah. So obviously with a lot of my stupid trades with the Bears and the Patriots, I have the Eagles missing out on all the top guys.
Yep.
And then, I mean, basically for all the reasons you said, I was like, hey, you know what? This guy makes a lot of sense. I think he's got some comparisons to like Tyler Lockett. And, if you're going to need to rebuild your wide receiver core, the Eagles need to a degree. I mean, maybe Rieger works out, but I think that's a great shot to take for everything. I'm not going to repeat everything you said, but he seems like a wonderful.
I mean, he played. He was on the field with AJ Brown and the other guy from Ole Miss that went to the Seahawks. Blanking on his name right now. Top dynasty wide receiver, probably.
Oh, Metcalf?
Yeah, Metcalf. I think he was on the team with them. He got on the field. He had like 400 yards his freshman year playing with them still. So this dude really, had a great year. This year he can ball. Like, I think he's going to be a riser.
Yeah, next one on the list, Nico Collins. You have the Texans grabbing a much-needed wide receiver at the 3. I have him falling to the 5th, also going to the Eagles, as I got the Eagles, again, needing to add some wide receivers there. I'm assuming you just see the Texans in dire need of wide receivers.
Yeah, don't have any wide receivers. I feel like, they need to get someone, and they have a lot of needs, so I don't think they take one in the first 2 rounds, but at a point they have to take one. Actually, they may not even have a first pick in the first 2 rounds. I know they don't have one in the first round.
Yeah, maybe not the first 2. I'm not sure either. Mine, I think from a fit standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. You got a fast guy in Rieger. You got your all around kind of guy with Elijah Moore. I just mentioned where Nico Collins. He's like your jump ball guy. Yep. Exactly. Yeah, I think it completes out that wide receiver core. So despite waiting, I kind of like what I've done with your team there.
yeah. I mean, I would love those 2. That would be a perfect fit. I mean, those 2 with Rieger. Yeah,
absolutely. Dwayne Eskridge, you got the Chiefs grabbing him in the 3rd. I got the 49ers in the 5th. I did actually consider having him go to the Chiefs. They like their home run hitters.
Yeah.
So I considered it. But I thought the 49ers needed one, so I threw him with the 49ers.
Yeah. He's a little bit older. I think he's 24. So, I mean, that could be a slight knock that he's coming in a little older, but and I think I've seen that, a little inconsistent hands, but yeah, he's a fast dude. He's a burner. Western Michigan, so he's definitely someone that makes sense for the Chiefs. They want to sprint, they want to run their track team.
Yeah, we got Tyler Wallace next. I got him very high. I feel like that's a mistake. I need to double check on that. But
I've got him top 10. I think he's like 8 or 9. So I got him in like the St. Brown, Tooney range.
Yeah, I mean, but I'll take a look at that. Maybe I'll bump that down to a 3rd. But either way, you have him go to the Panthers in the 4th. I got to go to the Saints in the 2nd. We'll see about that. But I'm assuming from your standpoint, Panthers, they just lost Curtis Samuel. They can use another.
Yeah, they just want to get another wide receiver to fill it out for sure.
Late shot, yeah. And this is me basically looking and saying, hey, I'm kind of giving up on Traquan.
Yep.
And if you remove Traquan, you really need to add another wide receiver. It's got some upside, wide receiver 2 kind of upside, which is what the Saints need. So next we got Amari Rodgers. You have the Eagles grabbing him in the 4th. I got him going to the Panthers in the 6th. I'll tell you now, my Panthers logic is the same logic that you just had.
Yep.
I'm assuming your Eagles logic is kind of the same
to the Nico,
what I've been saying.
He's a big contested catch guy. I mean, I don't think he's super high ceiling, but he's a good yards after the catch, contested catch. He's pretty quick, he's got good hands. He's just a solid receiver.
Indeed. Atwell is next. You got the Patriots grabbing him in the 4th. I have the Cardinals getting him in the 3rd.
Yeah, from what I saw, he's like a speedster. I didn't do a ton of research on him yet. He's one of the few I still have to read into, but I think he's a pretty fast guy, and Patriots could just use some more speed, just more playmakers overall. So Tony and Atwell, I think, would be a solid 2 picks to get for them.
Yeah, he plays out of slot. He could do a lot of gadget stuff, like he's good at sweeps and stuff like that. Which, looking at the Cardinals, I didn't really think they had anyone for. Obviously, they got Hopkins, but you look at their wide receiver drafting lately. You mentioned. What's his name? Butler earlier. Yep. Isabella hasn't really turned out. I forget who they drafted the year before. Was it Chad Williams or something? I forget that other wide receiver they drafted. They drafted another one the year
Hall,
before
maybe?
Isabella. Yeah, something like that. Either way,
Hansen?
we forget his name. Yeah, maybe Hansen. But, we forget his name for a reason.
Yes.
And it's because he is absolutely irrelevant. So outside of Hopkins, you don't have a ton of wide receivers there, which is a shame. But, 3rd pick, I think is a pretty decent shot on a wide receiver for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's fair. I really wish I could remember that player's name. I really think it was Chad Williams, but whatever. Doesn't matter.
And I know it's Chad something for sure.
Yeah, whatever. Doesn't matter. And then Murray and Terry, he's our last wide receiver here. You have him go to the Saints in the 4th. I have him going to the Browns in the 4th. Is your Saints logic pretty much in line with mine when we were talking Tyler Wallace?
He's a physical dude. He's explosive. He can kind of do a lot of things. He's not the most polished route runner, but overall, I think he's just a good receiver, and the Saints could use some more depth there. You're hoping that you get the breakout from what's his name, Trey Quinn, but other than Trey Quinn Smith and obviously Michael Thomas, I feel like you don't have a ton there.
Yep, that's fair. I got him going to the Browns. This is a depth play and a potential hedge against OBJ leaving or something like that. So simple as that. Tight ends, we got 3 tight ends we're going to go over. Kyle Pitts was a difficult one for me. You got him going to the Cowboys in the 1st. We know Jerry Jones likes him. And I got him going to the Falcons in the 1st. Do you have the Cowboys staying put, trading up?
In this scenario, I had him staying put. It's basically just the nightmare Eagles scenario that I was alluding to earlier. Cowboys get Pitts, the Giants grab Smith, both right before the Eagles. I just think if you're the Cowboys, sure, you could use defense, you could use offense tackle, but if you're going to win with the team you've built, it's going to be on offense. So just get the most terrifying skill players out there for Dak and just go put up 50 a game. You're going to give up 35, 40, but if you're throwing, if you have these weapons that you have, you're going to have, 2 to 3 year window of just having one of the most lethal offenses ever.
Yeah, you can't complain about that. And, Jerry likes the tight end. He had Witten for a long time, and that's what he's going to do with Pitts there. This is one I struggled with. I told you, I really have no idea and as if anyone does, no idea what the Falcons are going to do.
Yep.
I think trading back makes a ton of sense, but if they don't, if you want to reestablish that Gonzalez Hooper kind of thing with Matt Ryan, Kyle Pitts is your guy.
Mm-hmm.
Even in my scenarios, though, when I had the Falcons trading back, I figured, hey, you know what? The Bengals need a tight end. You give Burrow a weapon. The Dolphins need a tight end. So I really never had him going down to the Cowboys as much as it makes a ton of sense. And I like that story. I could never pull it off. And then it was starting to break the other story as I was telling myself about the Bengals and the Dolphins. So I just stuck with the Falcons and didn't want to play the game.
Man, Matt Ryan has been around a while. You just said Matt Ryan and Tony Gonzalez.
Yeah,
that really puts into perspective how long Matt Ryan's been playing.
I think 2007 draft class, I think.
Wild.
He was drafted with that Flacco.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is something else.
Yes, that is. I mean, I'm just blowing my mind right now. But yeah.
I know.
I mean, it makes sense.
It's
I think that's
amazing.
the most logical spot for Pitts.
Yeah, I mean,
Falcons just
some other names. I think Roddy White played with him too.
Yep. There, Julio, I think, was a baby.
Yeah, Steven Jackson was there. Burner Turner, I think, was there.
Michael Turner, Michael Turner and Steven Jackson. Yeah, that was on paper a heck of a team.
Ago, man. Yeah, shame. Pat Freiermuth, both of us got him going to the Jaguars at the 2. That just fills a need, man. It seems too easy.
Yeah, I mean, they need tight end. They got a young quarterback. It just makes so much sense. They've got a good bit of receivers. As you mentioned, they got James Robinson. I think, getting a good young tight end to pair with a good young quarterback just makes too much sense.
Yeah, and then Brevin Jordan. I like both our picks. You got him going to the Chargers in the 2nd. I got him to the Bills. Obviously, Chargers just lost Hunter Henry. Bills just don't have anyone. Knox hasn't really panned out yet. So I think it makes a lot of sense for both.
Yeah, same logic I have with that Eagles trade up, right? Getting Ertz to the Bills. Makes sense getting a young tight end that you can build around with Brevin Jordan.
Yeah, I think both those picks make sense. So I'd be curious to see which one of us is right, and the answer is probably neither of us.
Yeah,
but
probably neither.
He'll be a Patriot or something.
Yep,
they like their tight ends. Oh man, so that wraps up the exercise there, Will.
Yeah, I'm excited. We got the draft coming up. I mean, obviously it's almost like a draft poll that we have here, right? There's nothing on the line really, but it just gives you a reason to root for guys to go to certain places and just really want to see where everyone goes. Yeah,
and if you haven't done it, I'd sit down and just use our names or grab an actual draft board and play around with it, because it's fun running all the different scenarios. And what's this team going to do? And it's fun until you get to the Falcons, and then it's not fun anymore.
I mean, it gets you thinking, right? And especially if it's dynasty, it gets you thinking about the league and what everyone needs, and then you can kind of take that and implement that to your actual league and look around at the teams in your league and see what everyone needs. We've been making some moves here in the past week, trying to better ourselves and then, better some draft positioning by getting, some of our fringe players to teams that are a little, not as deep as us. So, it's definitely a good exercise to maybe get your mind back and get you into the swing of things for Dynasty.
Yeah, absolutely. So give it a try. But that is going to wrap up today's episode. I don't know what we're doing next. 2 weeks. Well, I guess we can maybe do a Dynasty review, talk about all our trades and everything from our season.
Yeah, we do that. I mean,
fun episode last year.
We'll do a little recap of the draft, see how we're feeling about how this went, but how, what some of our favorite guys, biggest movers, and, shakers of how the picks affect where we think we want to take them.
Yeah, sounds good. So until then, again, probably 2 weeks. Always remember, folks, trust your board.